All right. Looks like we are live here on YouTube. I'm trying to go live on Instagram. So let's see if I can do that as well today. Oh, there we are.
Okay, are we live yet?
We are live.
Okay.
Here.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to another Thursday Carnivore Mastermind. Excited to be here as usual with all of you. And one of my favorite topics, I feel like we've kind of done this one before, but I think it's always worth repeating, talking about brain health and mental health and how, we'll each personally kind of describe our own journeys and how things have changed for us. We did a poll this week asking you guys. I only got it out yesterday, so you have to forgive me. I'm trying to remember to do everything, and then sometimes I forget. So maybe I still have a little work to do in the brain health department, but major improvement so far. Anyway, so we'll get some comments from you all here, and of course, if you're live in the chat with us, we'd love to hear from you. Any stories that you have, comments and or questions. If you have questions, please leave them with the QQQ and we will bring them up and do our best to answer after everybody's had a chance. Obviously, none of us are giving medical advice or anything of the sort. We are just sharing our experiences and hoping to provide some support. So this topic's one of my favorites because I think part of it is so interesting because it's unseen. Brain health, mental health, some of the things that we experience, they're not visible on the outside. People can't really tell necessarily, like they can tell if you lose weight or your skin clears up or certain other things, reflect in your appearance. These are all internal things. It's part of oftentimes our identity, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe is possible and what we're capable of. And so these types of transformations via just dietary intervention are some of the things that get me the most excited about this way of eating, because I think they have, this topic, this idea that we can change what we eat via removing things from our diet and also adding things in that maybe we've been taught the wrong information about these types of foods. Adding those in can literally change the entire trajectory of your life. You can look at your future completely differently. You can look at who you are completely differently. And through that, you can have a major impact positively in the lives of others that maybe you wouldn't have been able to do before. And so that's why I love talking about this. And I think to get started, we will bring up the poll the week. And so I just kind of asked you 4 options, like how has your brain or mental health improved since being on carnivore? Or I know some of you eat some plants, maybe keto or ketovore. So symptoms like brain fog, depression, anxiety, your overall outlook on life, or some sort of other, mental health condition, disease that you've been diagnosed with. How has that changed since you've adopted a proper human diet? 11% voted for not much, maybe just a little bit. 22% said you've noticed quite a bit of a change. 35% is the majority, saying a very noticeable change. And then very close second place at 33%, a life-changing amount, which I think I could say I'm very much in between the very noticeable and the life-changing amount myself. And so we have a few comments. Rent My Dust says the effect on my joints and even pulled nerve in my neck is wonderful, right? Another testament to reduction in inflammation, which is probably what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, is something that is happening within our brains, which is why we see so many people healing. Aid Larson says carnivore is proper human behavior. Everything gets better when you remove inflammatory poisons. I'll second that. Sarah Frost says life-changing, and it's the best thing I've ever done for myself, and I love it. So that is the results of the poll this week. So I think sort of as is tradition, we lost somebody. We lost DC. Maybe he'll pop back in. So we'll kind of just go around in a circle here. And if you want to just start like with your own personal story or any thoughts you have or notes that you've brought to class today to just shed some light on why you think changing your diet has helped you or is helping so many other people we see in other videos and comments. So we'll start with Carnivore Teacher and we'll go around. Maybe DC will pop back in.
Okay, I'll try not to be too long. I want to start by showing Dr. Georgia Eads' book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind. I'm not through it all yet, but everyone raves about this book. And so far, it is a page turner. And my personal story, I ate the standard American diet most of my life, and I had a lot of mood swings that I know came from my sugar highs and my insulin highs, and I was all over the place. I had a lot of depression throughout my life. I was even on antidepressant medicines, 2 different medicines at a different decade in my life. And I, tried to solve my problems with medicine. Then the weight started to come on. I was always insecure and shy. I mean, I knew myself growing up in 20s, 30s, and 40s. I was who I was, my personality. And then when I changed my diet, and like you said, Neah, it's not just the outward things that you see and all of the wonderful benefits that you're enjoying on the outside. I would say the most amazing benefits are my mind, my emotions, and my mental clarity have improved. I'm on the dramatic side of that pole. Dramatic changes. Absolutely no more depression anymore. Not a single time. No more highs and lows. I am level or up all the time. Now, I recently, within the last 4 years and 3 years now, my father died and then my mother died. All right, these are things that make somebody sad. You go through normal mourning process. I would have been a wreck. I would have been a disaster before my diet, but I was eating ketovore and then carnivore during these times in my life, and I got through it very easily. Was I sad? Yes, but I wasn't depressed. I didn't go into like a cave inside myself and cry, and I wasn't. It's very hard to explain, but I wasn't manic like I was before. When my hormones are level and my blood sugars are level and so many other levels in the body are correct because we're eating the proper human diet, the mood is stable and up, actually. You're happy. I am able to concentrate and articulate and find my vocabulary to express myself as a teacher. Now I'm teaching online. So much better than I ever could before. I was in a fog of my own eating. I didn't know it, but I was in a fog of my own making by the food I was eating. That fog has cleared. Confidence level. I never was a confident person. I had to muster self-confidence and fake it till you made it. You never hear that phrase, fake it till you make it? That was me most of my life. And I learned to be good at faking it because I never had the internal confidence. And now I don't know if it's part of mood enhancement, being nourished properly. I have genuine confidence in myself. I believe in myself. I look in the mirror and I see a different person than the rest of my years on this planet, all because I have balanced hormones and balanced nutrition in my body. So I can't rave enough about the proper human diet and mood, emotions, and mental clarity improvement. It's black and white. It's outstanding. So I highly recommend this way of eating for anybody, not just to lose weight, but for so many other reasons. And the emotional and mental health are big, big bonuses.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll go down to Papa Carnivore.
Okay, well, I guess where do I start? I would say so. Most of my life, I was struggling with a lot of anxiety. I had ADD. Definitely, depression started to come on, and I suffered with kind of highs and lows. But it wasn't until I guess I got divorced back in 2012, and just before that, I had a big job loss. I was a senior vice president of a Fortune 500 bank, and for 26 years, and got laid off after 26 years. So that led to the marriage going away and all this good stuff. So I threw me into a major depression. And that's when I was diagnosed with bipolar depression, anxiety disorder. And I guess since I would say 2007, 2008, they put me on the medication. And it really didn't work at all. I got to tell you. I mean, I don't know, John, how was it for you with the medications? It just didn't seem to do a lot. And, so I struggled with that. I mean, I was on clonazepam for a while. Getting off of that was like heroin. Thank God.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Mine blocked
you
the
guys have
highs
seen,
and blocked the lows. It was kind of like
you've seen
I
Carrie's,
felt nothing.
you've seen Carrie's bucket of medicine. I have one of those.
Yes.
From all the medicines and different things, acid reflux, omeprazole, and all different things. But what ended up happening was back in, I guess this was January of last year of 2023, I got diagnosed with diabetes. And I'm like, so funny, they did a blood test the previous August of 2022 and didn't tell me that I had diabetes. I guess they conveniently forgot for 6 months to tell me. I went in for my annual physical, and the nurse is checking me and says, "So what are you taking for your diabetes?" I said, "I don't have diabetes. What are you talking about?" She said, "Oh, your blood test from August of last year said that you have an A1C of like 8 point something, and you're full-blown diabetic." So anyway, this whole thing was just out of control. And I was already on high blood pressure medicine and everything else. So that kind of threw me into a big tizzy. And I ended up saying, I'm going to figure this out on my own. Just give me 6 months, diet, exercise. I'm going to figure this out without going on insulin or whatever. And that's when I went on YouTube and I found Dr. Berry's video that's called Reverse Diabetes. I think it's his most popular video. It's been seen, I don't know how many millions of times. And it's really, I guess, was more keto. And I started out keto, and my depression went away. I got to tell you, within the first 3 to 4 weeks, I felt like, I wouldn't say it was gone, but there's something about that 3 weeks. I mean, where the inflammation really goes down a lot. And this magical, I don't know if you saw that video that Carrie had with Malia, but if you haven't seen it, and she talks about how at the 3 week mark, there's certain gut bacteria or something in your biome in your gut that resolves itself. And that cleared up the depression. My arthritis in my knees, which was debilitating, I could barely walk, was gone, completely gone in 3 weeks. The depression started to lift, the anxiety. But anyway, so I'm now 568 days on carnivore. I'm off all medicine. I mean, I took 3 blood pressure medicines. I'm off that. Everything, the omeprazole for the acid reflux, all the anxiety, depression medication. I mean, I was on Seroquel and lamotrigine and all different things. Gone off of all that stuff. I take absolutely, the only thing I take is vitamin D, D3, K2, and iodine, and magnesium. I take some magnesium. But other than that, I mean, I'm literally take nothing. That's not true. I'm hypothyroid, so I take levothyroxine, but that's just not a biggie. But that's really it. And I got to tell you, for anyone out there who's watching, it is a miracle what's happened to me. Not only losing 98 pounds, reversing the diabetes, high blood pressure, I could go on. But the biggie was I have zero, my depression, anxiety, ADHD, it's all gone. It's a complete remission. I feel like the same as I felt when I was 18 years old in high school, and I'm at the same weight that I was when I was 20 years old. I went from a pant size 44 to 34. I mean, 300 pounds to 202. So this is all the types of things that are possible with carnivore. Once in a while, will I have some pickles? Call the carnivore police. I might have some pickles with my steak once in a while, but I might have a half an avocado once in a while. But other than that, I don't know, once in a while I might have some berries, you know, some blueberries or something, or strawberries, but very rarely. And I would say for the most part, I'm full blown hardcore carnivore.
Yeah, that's good.
Love
Yeah.
it. DC.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of life changes that come out of this for me. You know, reading, I've got to recommend a great book by Georgia E. You know, it all comes down to chemical imbalances, you know. But, you know, I've spent, you know, looking back, I've spent my whole life, I've had anxiety problems, things like that. I grew up not much food in the house. My mother tried to make us vegetarian when I was a kid. And, you know, so I basically grew up malnourished. But even like after college, when I finished my sports and exercise science, like I was fat phobic, and I think that's one of the biggest things that sort of led to my diagnosis. But after that, you know, the years of chemotherapy, one of my biggest fears has been since then is developing dementia, because a lot of chemotherapy patients do develop dementia because it just, especially if you've been doing heavy dose chemotherapy, it cooks your brain. Right? It literally cooks you, microwaves you from the inside out. And, you know, I did 3 years solid chemotherapy. So, you know, afterwards, you know, I wasn't really thinking about it at the time. But for example, after my transplant, especially, it gradually through those 3 years, it got worse and worse. But after that, it was, you know, I couldn't remember things from, like, I couldn't remember eating breakfast, that sort of stuff. I couldn't remember eating meals that I'd just finished, sort of thing. I couldn't remember people visiting and talking to me for hours, and I'd have no idea. Still, to this day, I can't remember ever seeing them during that period. You know, I lost a lot of concentration skills that I couldn't even read one page in a book without wandering off. You know, I couldn't even watch a movie without wandering off, you know, and you don't have to do anything for that. You just sit there like a lump and watch a movie for 10 minutes. I couldn't even do that. So for me, it's a really dramatic turnaround, getting fat, like a high fat diet, feeding my brain. I'm not going to say, like, it's not perfect, and it's certainly, but it is better than I have felt in a very long time. And I can, like I just showed you the book, I can actually read again, I can speak again. And I had a lot of concentration skills problems that I couldn't speak very well after the transplant. So these are all these motor skills that I just didn't have. So mentally, like, depression, and of course anxiety, everything that goes along with that afterwards, because, you know, you spend years facing, well, there's absolutely no hope of a future. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing to improve the situation. So it was very difficult for many years. And even now they keep telling me, like, there's no hope really. It's just the only hope I have is what I'm seeing in myself and the improvements that I've found in myself the last 10 years. So it's absolutely life-changing. It really is. And I'm not going to say, like, it's not going to be, I'm not sure how far it's going to go. It's certainly not, I'm not saying it's going to be a cure for everything that I've got, but it certainly has made a vast difference in my ability to think, to concentrate, to remember things, to speak, to actually sit down and read again is a skill as well. So it has. I hope it will improve. I hope it will continue to improve. I think it is. I feel like it is. But even if it doesn't, I'm still light years away from where I started. So it's absolutely life changing, you know.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel the same way. And I've said several times on this channel now, it's like the longer I do this, the more I realize how bad it how bad it was before. And I think that's such a weird thing to recognize if you have not been on the other side, so to speak, of having removed all the junk and having felt that sense of clarity and the brain fog moving away and the anxiety decreasing. Sometimes you don't even know how bad it is, until you make the change and you get to the other side and you realize, oh my gosh, like that's how I was feeling every day. And I've noticed that, cutting out caffeine and coffee was one of the biggest things that, well, I mean, it's up there, number one or number two with just overall what a difference that is. And I recently just gave up decaf again because I was thinking, oh, I can get away with drinking a couple cups of decaf a day, but there was still this sort of addictive component to it for me. And I'll keep looking up things about coffee, and it's like literally caffeine is a natural pesticide that plants use to try to, eliminate things that are trying to eat it. So what do you think that's doing to our brains, and our nervous system and our fight or flight response, right? Our adrenaline, our cortisol. It's keeping us in that sort of heightened state of we're on edge. We got to be ready to react to something, and so nothing against anybody who still drinks coffee, or tea, caffeinated, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like all these plants, they are trying to defend themselves. They don't want to die either. And so they are trying to make life miserable for us, in many ways that consume them. And so just getting that whole mindset shift, I think is why I want to keep like harping home, bringing home this topic, is because I think it's such a hard thing for people to wrap their minds around. That number one, maybe they're feeling as bad as they are, and then that it's actually the plants that are causing a lot of this problem and the lack of proper animal nutrition from animal fats. And both of you, John and DC, both mentioned Georgia Eads' book. And this is an article that was published by her on Psychology Today in 2019. It's kind of a high level overview of why we need animal fat specifically, not just the plant fats that have the precursors for these essential fatty acids that we're being told, in the mainstream. Oh, we need, we can just do vegetable oils and all these things. Another interesting one is if you kind of just look up, okay, so we need DHA is one of the main ones, right? That is potentially shown to assist in, dementia sort of situations, prevent cognitive decline. So there's EPA, DHA, and not ALA, ARA, arachidonic acid. And so that like the highlighted chunk here, it says, we've been told for decades to avoid saturated fat, particularly from animals, and to consume healthy cholesterol-free fats from plant foods such as seeds, nuts, and olives. Public health officials say these plant fats are important because they contain these two essential unsaturated fatty acids that the human body can't manufacture, the ALA and the LA, the linoleic acid. But just like this, when you first kind of type in, oh, what are foods that are high in DHA, this essential fatty acid that we need, walnuts is the first thing that comes up. Then you have flaxseed. And it says right here, a superfood. Am I sharing this one? Right?
No, you're not yet.
I'm not. Where'd it go? Okay.
Well, unfortunately, what they don't tell you is that a lot of people can't convert the ALA and the linoleic acid into DHA into their body. Some people can't do that.
Or do it well.
Right,
or
exactly.
efficiently enough, right? You're absolutely
Well,
right.
another thing they don't tell you is that the sources of these your body can't actually break down and absorb either. So when they tell you like walnuts are a superfood because they're high in omega-3s, your body can't even digest walnuts. They are so hard that when they get down to your digestive tract, all they do is rot in your colon, and you can't actually absorb anything from them anyway to actually convert into. So it doesn't even make it to your system at all. It's really, all it does is, I mean, these fibers. Actually, this comes down to a lot of the foods that they tell you to eat are very fibrous, non-digestible fibers that expand once you're in your stomach and in your digestive tract, and cause a lot of inflammation. And basically, they ruin so many processes in your body, including sex hormones, your ability to absorb other vitamins and minerals, and the fatty acids that you get from, even if you're eating meat with it, these things will stop you from absorbing it. So these so-called superfoods, they're absolutely evil.
Right. That's exactly where I was going. We can't digest it. We can't use and convert what little of these precursor fatty acids might be in there. We don't even know if we can, if we're somebody that converts well, or if we don't. And so I actually did find some articles saying, like, yeah, even plant-based proponents are starting to come out and say, yeah, we don't for sure know if you can get all of this, and especially for kids. Right. And this is the kicker that's in this article too, where she talks about basically from the 3rd trimester to age 2 is the optimal window for that growing baby to get enough DHA to really support that brain development. And if the child doesn't get it between, up until about age 2, it's unclear if it can ever be made up for. And there's some research that's pointing to, deficiencies in that early development of essential nutrients like DHA from animal sources, that are pointing to things like autism or, different learning disabilities and ADHD and things like that. And so this is like critically important that kids get this too. And, I'm kind of all for, like, if you're an adult, eat whatever you want, that's fine. But it really starts to bug me when it's like, people are saying it's okay for kids to be vegan or kids to be vegetarian. And I think that's just, again, are we stunting these children's growth? Are we limiting their potential based on the fact that we are too dogmatic with our way of thinking about, all of the other things that the plant-based movement is connected to, that we are literally robbing these children of their future in some form?
The other thing with the vegans is, if you're not really, really careful in your supplementation, particularly vitamin B12, which is critical in the myelin sheath and all of the neurons and everything in your brain. This is, when I was a kid, I'm 62. When I was a kid, there was, you could count on one hand the number of people that had autism, and they didn't even know what autism was back then. That the kid might have been slow, whatever they would say, or something. But there was nowadays, and I even remember when my kids were growing up, this back in the middle 90s, when I had my kids in 94 and 1998. And I was beginning to see kids with autism. You had never seen this. Like, John, you right? You never saw the amount of.
I'm a middle school teacher, and there were autistic kids in my classes the last 10 years. It has grown to like 1 in every 10 children. Is that ridiculous? It used to be 1 in every 56 a few years ago, and 1 in every 72. It's getting worse. It's getting worse.
I totally believe it's the plant-based diet where they're just eating. If you look at how little protein and particularly animal fat, because still this is out there that animal fat is bad, red meat is bad, butter is bad. It's still out there, which blows my mind. That this is still out there.
Vegans are not receiving all of the essential amino acids. There are lots of videos out there about a particular or 2 particular amino acids that you don't get at all from plants. And they're noticing kids with autism are missing these amino acids, or they're low in them in their brains and the development. And they're starting to see connections with these amino acids that vegans. The mother, when the mother was eating, and while she was pregnant. Not to blame anybody listening, not to put any guilt on anybody listening. I'm just telling you what I learned. Yeah.
It's not. I also believe it's the amount of chemicals, all this like man-made chemicals and
It's
food
that too.
dyes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that stuff could be contributing too.
Oh, it absolutely.
We also
is.
have radio waves and wireless phones and all of these satellites, and we have so many things
Yeah.
that we don't see that are affecting
But
us.
I mean,
Lots
there's
of
a lot of things we
plastic.
can't control. Like we
Yeah.
can't control that. We can't control the pollution,
Right.
the radio waves and everything like that. But the things we can control, we should. For example, the food. Stay away from processed foods. All these dyes, colorings, flavorings, sweeteners, all this other stuff. They all contribute. But the thing that gets me about when they're talking about children and they're making vegans are making their kids be vegan, things like that. You're not only stunting their growth, you're stunting their brain development.
Right.
Because that's part of their growth. Right? So
It is.
they're just getting dumber and dumber. Okay, because they're just losing the brain development as they grow when they're supposed
And
to be growing.
the key to that is they're growing. They're doing it to children when
Right.
they're in the most important part of their entire life, and that's puberty and the growing brain and everything. And the parents probably started vegan as adults. All right, they're damaging their body, but they're already grown. They've already developed. They're really harming their kids.
And not only
That's
that, it's also the hormones. I mean, you have these young girls now that aren't getting periods, right, Neah? I mean, you're hearing about this. You never heard about that when I was a kid. The young girls not having their cycle and being depressed and anxious. The amount of depression, anxiety, and ADD is like rampant. And I'm just convinced it's this plant-based diet, ultra processed foods. It's not even the vegans. Yes, there are those people, but man, you just look at what the kids are eating. It's just they're eating 90% plants, and it's all ultra processed, and it's just messing up their hormones. There's poor kids.
Absolutely, it's destroying.
And
it's
being
destroying
told,
these. They're crimes.
women
These are
being
crimes.
told that that's normal, that they don't have a cycle, or that it's like they're cleansing or they're detoxing, and that's a good thing that they've lost their cycle. Like that is psycho to me, like that is not.
You also have the opposite end of the scale too, where children are developing earlier. Girls are actually getting their cycle before they even hit double digits in some cases.
Yeah, they're getting their periods at 7 and 8 years old. Some of these girls,
right? Which means later on in life, you think about they'll be menopause by the time they're 30. Okay, so they're not talking about these consequences later on either. They're just these are symptoms of what's going on. These are all due to processed foods. They're full of hormones. They're full of artificial, manufactured vitamins and minerals and nutrients. And like John was talking about before, that from plants you can't get some types of proteins.
Amino acids.
Yeah, amino acids. But the fact is, it doesn't matter. Even the ones that you can get are not in the right currency.
Right.
So your body doesn't absorb anyway. But one of the most vital of the amino acids or proteins in your body is collagen, which you cannot get from plants at all. All right. And this is one of the major building blocks for your bones, for your hormones, for everything else. But other things like creatine. Creatine is vital for your brain function. Okay, it's great for your brain, also for other processes in the body, of course, hormone production. But cholesterol and creatine you need for the brain function, which especially if you are going through developing years, if you're not getting that to your child, they are just not going to develop. By the time they're 20 years old, they're going to be not only be stunted in height, but their brain development is just not going to be there. They will not be able to cope with life. And at the moment, you see, like Georgia E. explains, there is a mental health crisis around the world. And this is part of it. This is it's just poor nutrition. They are not getting these vital fatty amino acids or proteins to the brain. They cannot cope with life.
Well, I will tell you one thing. that for anybody who is suffering from, depression, anxiety, ADHD, OCD, I have a little bit of the obsessive. I'm sure we all have obsessive over certain things and stuff. I will tell you the high fat carnivore, or whether you're doing high fat keto or ketovore, but trying to keep that animal fat high. And when I say high, I try and keep it between 70 and 80%. I know that sounds pretty high, but I would say my average is 70 to 75%. So I don't know where you guys land, but I do track. I'm a big tracker. I did, there's people out there saying, oh, just eat and don't track. Neah, I'm like you. I'm a data person. I mean, I'm a banker, I'm a numbers guy. So I love the tracking. I love tweaking things. I love changing, trying experiments. And it's helped me a lot because I've had several weight stalls. But keeping the fat content high for mental conditions, guys, I think is critical. And it's really helped me a lot.
I agree. 100%. The fat, healthy animal fats.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got lots of great
Absolutely.
comments coming through here, and I want to throw up a question here we had towards the beginning. I know, John, I think some of you have been answering this as we've gone throughout,
Yeah.
but just so everybody can see, is it Ellie? Anyone with eye twitching? Any explanation for it on carnivore? Is it low magnesium? Any clue? Thank you.
I haven't heard that one.
Googled that for a little bit and just found a few things, and I posted them in the comments. And it makes you examine yourself. Like, what am I drinking coffee? Is there any nicotine coming into my body? Have I had any stress in my life? I mean, you have to look at everything to see what's causing that. If you're just eating the carnivore diet and you don't have any other chemicals going in, I would see your eye doctor. I would go see if there's something that has nothing to do with food. But really closely questioning yourself, what am I putting into my body that's more than carnivore?
Now, I will say that I did experience some oxalate dumping through my eyes, but it felt like almost like I was having really incredible tearing, mostly out of my right eye. I mean, it was almost
I
like
had that with mine.
Yeah, and it felt almost like little grains of sand, like coming out of my eye, tear ducts. And it was for about 2 or 3 weeks. It was horrific. And then it went away. One day it was just gone. And I think it was oxalate dumping because did you guys read the Sally K. Norton's book?
Yep.
Yeah. So in there, she talked about that it can come out of your eyes.
Yeah.
It can.
Well,
I had the
yeah.
exact same thing you described. I had the exact same thing. Yeah.
Could be oxalate
Yeah, you
dumping.
do get oxalates coming out through like any sort of porous area. They will come out. So I would be quite common. But another thing is it could be neural fatigue. Some people will get that when they get tired. It can be just a natural fatigue reaction. So if you are on a clean carnivore diet, perhaps you're not getting enough protein or enough fat, which could lead to a neural fatigue. So you might get a twitch in the eye. But apart from that, I would take everything as clean as possible if it's something you're trying to get rid of.
Right.
Caffeine can do things like that too. Like Neah was saying, it gives you. That's why people are so addicted to it too, because that hyper alertness. They feel like they're awake because they've drank coffee, but actually what it's doing is producing cortisol and giving you that fight or flight sort of anxious alertness all day long.
Oh, there's Leah.
Yeah, I thought I would showcase this one a little bit. High-fat carnivore has helped my anxiety, depression, and PTSD with no medications anymore, and was able to stop smoking cannabis after 14 years for PTSD on high-fat butter and tallow, 2 months carnivore. That's incredible.
That's great, Leah.
That's good.
Hey, Leah.
I can say I have had eye twitching on and off in like over my whole life. It's usually my left eye, and it'll be on the bottom lid, and it'll just but I feel like mine's definitely related to stress or staring at my computer for a long time because I
Blue
tend to
light.
hyper
Yeah.
focus. And so like if I'm working on something or studying something and it's like, oh my gosh, 6 hours have gone by, it's like my eyes twitching. I'm like, okay, I need to get up and move around, you know? So some of it is like environment stuff like that I found. But I've never had problems with like leg cramping or twitching or anything like that related to electrolyte imbalance that I know some people do get, and magnesium does help. But I know that the topical magnesium spray is something like, obviously you don't want to spray that on your eye, you know, but that's something that I know people try because it's very easy to absorb. So, you know, maybe that'd be a way to try to take magnesium. You can dose it very precisely that way too, just to see if it's a magnesium thing, maybe that would help.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think, yeah, you all had.
When
good
talking
comments.
about cramps, though, you know, it's not. I know, like when people talk, they keep talking about cramps on the carnivore diet. They keep saying it's an electrolyte imbalance. It's not. It's not just electrolytes that
Could be
or
water.
lack of, you know.
Yeah, for me, it was
A lot of it can be. There are three major things that will give you three major reasons that you get leg cramps. Okay. One, yes, it can be a lack of electrolytes. It can also be, which is caused by sometimes drinking too much water because you flush your electrolytes out.
Right.
Another one is protein, not getting enough protein. And the third one is probably the most common one that people don't realize is circulation. Because even if you are getting electrolytes and you're getting the proteins that you need, if you don't have the circulation, if you are not moving, those minerals and proteins are not getting to your muscles. So your muscles are going to cramp. All right. So, and that happens. A lot of the carnivores that complain about cramps are very sedentary people, usually. And they don't realize if they just stand up, walk around, the cramp is gone. Yeah. Because the minerals get to the muscles. Circulation is one of the biggest reasons why people get cramps. Okay.
I just saw a comment from BK, said that she stopped smoking 6 months ago. So I just want to congratulate you on that. That is huge.
Yep. Congrats.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
one of the best
It's
things you
up
can
here, but-
do to improve your health. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that's tough. Like I smoked in my past too, and it's definitely not easy to quit. So
There are
Yeah,
behaviors connected to the nicotine that people are more addicted to all of the behaviors associated with it. After the meal, on the phone, in the car. That's the hardest part for a lot of people. The nicotine is just the chemical that they can get used to. So anybody who does that, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah,
Stick with it.
it's like an oral fixation. It's the same kind of thing with coffee. It's the ritual, the beans, the smell. Yeah, believe me. I mean, I still drink 1 cup of coffee in the morning, but I do a fatty, where I add the heavy cream, a lot of grass-fed butter, and even a teaspoon or tablespoon of MCT oil. So I mean, it's like my fat bomb for my brain. It's almost like my mental medicine of starting out the day with lots and lots of fat.
Yeah, it was definitely my fat carrier for a while too, but it's like for me, I'm feeling so much better off of it. Thank you, Stink Ass Cat, for the super chat. I wanted to throw this up here. And I always love reading your handle out loud. I'm 6'5" and was raised on a farm, eating meat every day, never had any medical problems till last 10 years, and carnivore solved all of them.
All of them.
A little sneak peek from my little.
That's a good.
I see somebody
fairy.
there.
Obviously, throughout his growing years, he's eating a lot of meat. He's 6'5". Rick, when he changed his diet, he went from the smallest in his class to the tallest. He's now 6'6". That's how important the developing years are.
Yeah, absolutely. A. Larson asks, what chronic ailment isn't caused or exacerbated by the wrong food?
There are some there are some genetic things, there's very not so many, because nowadays they blame you got cancer because of it's just genetic, or you got diabetes, it's just genetic. they blame that on, and a lot of that stuff is just inflammation that can be cured with, the carnivore or ketovore or whatever. But there are some genetic disorders that have nothing to do with the food, but it's not a very high percentage.
But the thing is that even if you are predispositioned to get a certain disease, you can limit your disposition for example, like cancer and things like that with the proper food. And I think for most conditions, you can improve with the right food as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. It's the our environment and our food can pull the trigger. But
right.
That trigger does not get pulled. You can have the genes that you may inherit, but it may not manifest because you're eating a clean carnivore diet. And then that includes cancer. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that
This is
the body
sort of
has,
off. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, did you know that the body has cancer cells in it?
Now,
even when you're healthy, they're in there. But
every animal does. Every animal does.
Check. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Every
we carnivores are, in check. We are so healthy. We don't have the high levels of the cancer's food. We don't have enormous levels of glucose circulating through our body. And so, our immune system can gobble those suckers up, and we're doing well.
When you're on the species-specific diet, like even I forget the name of it, but the larger the animal, the more strands of these disease-carrying sort of genes we have.
Mm-hmm.
But blue whales, they don't get cancer, because they're on a species-specific diet. But humans do. Pets do, because they are not on a species-specific diet.
Right.
But wild animals don't get it.
They don't get it.
I was going to say I'm 18 months now. September 1st will be 18 months carnivore. I haven't had so much as a sniffle. I mean, nothing, and that's crazy.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And let's never forget these things. We do start to take them for granted as the months and the years progress. You forget how bad you were.
Yeah.
You forget, and you don't want to, lapse back into it or forget it. I mean, I have excitement on my face every time I make my videos and when I'm talking, because it starts to come back to me, all the wonderful benefits that I'm getting on the carnivore diet. I can't keep it off of my facial expressions, because as I'm talking, I'm remembering how really fantastic it is. And I never want to forget that, because if I went back to the way I was with the emotions and with all the other physical issues I had that I didn't mention in tonight's podcast, I was miserable. So this is mental health I really do think, like we all said with this wonderful book here, I really do think that the carnivore way of eating, the best benefit is our emotional health and our mental clarity. All the other physical things come along, and this has been my best improvement.
Yeah, I want to also say the brain fog. When we talk about carnivores, talk about the carnivore zen or the carnivore calm.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, I mean, the clarity is, you don't even, you don't know that you're in the fog until you're out of the fog. And it's amazing if people could just know what it feels like to live clean like this. And with right, Neah? I mean, the way you can think now, it's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally like night and day is not a good enough, metaphor or whatever for it. But it feels like you are in the dark sometimes. And like, I'm open on my channel. Like I still have a little ways to go. I'm still having some symptoms, but I've been struggling since the more I think about it, it's like probably since I was a child and just didn't know, again, like that this wasn't normal or that, and so it's like my whole life, I'm 37, it's like, it's going to take probably more than a year for me to get all this stuff balanced out. So that's totally fine. But the fact that like, I don't drink anymore. I don't drink coffee anymore. I don't binge secretly in my car on cheesecake anymore. Like I've learned how to cope with my emotions and things that I struggle with and have to You know, you have to be ready to confront that stuff is the other thing when you do this, because it's coming and you can't heal. I mean, you can, nutrition can do a whole lot, and we're all evidence of that. But I think if you are going to commit to this and you're going to say, I'm ready to heal, I want better mental health, I want less brain fog, I want more clarity, I want to be more productive, I want to be a better mother, father, brother, sister, whatever it is, be ready, because the inner journey is part of this as well. You know, there are things that have to be confronted, and you have to learn other strategies to cope. Like we've been talking about how BK quit smoking, you know, like that's a huge thing to give up. And that is a coping mechanism for something, right? It is providing a benefit in some way, or we wouldn't be doing it, even though we know it's not good for us. And so finding a replacement that's a healthy substitute for, you know, the emotion or the stress or whatever it is that was kind of the underlying cause of these addictions is a huge part of the process, in my opinion, as well. And so that goes hand in hand with staying strict to the diet until your body can heal. And you start feeling good, and then it becomes easier, right, to stack those wins on top of each other, because you feel so much better and you realize, oh, I can overcome this. I actually can, you know, give these things up and still be happy. I actually can find joy in just waking up in the morning, like in my case, and not having coffee. Like that was huge for me. I was holding on to that decaf and trying to get like, oh, mold-free, organic, single origin, high elevation beans. You know, maybe that's my last ditch effort to be able to hold on to this thing that I loved, you know. And it was like, I felt bad. I felt emotionally kind of depressed for about a week when I gave that up. But it's like, you know what? I have a grounding mat now, which was kind of my replacement thing. I'm like, I'm going to go sit on my mat outside and drink my hot water with some salt, you know, and that's my replacement. And so now it's like, okay, I go sit on this mat. I feel connected. I feel like I'm doing something good for myself. And then I can journal. Then I can do my thing in the morning, you know?
You know what a lot of people do? They do bone broth, maybe with a little butter in it or salt. And it's this, you know, you get that same feeling of drinking
warm,
that,
right?
You know, same ritual. Yeah.
When we remove something that we love and that we're used to, there's a giant hole left in there.
Like an old friend.
It's like a death in the family. You know, you stop smoking, you stop drinking coffee. It's like somebody died. There's a depression. There's a sadness. So removal and replacement, just like Neah said, replace it with something neutral or beneficial. And it's not so hard, and you can wean and replace it. Maybe don't have to do the bone broth later in the future, or the warm water with the butter, but you do. That's how I quit coffee. I had to have hot water with butter in it, just to go through the motion. And then I slowly just had water, and now I don't do anything, and I don't miss it either. But that's important. Everything, Neah, you just said hits home big time with a lot of people who are trying to stop something. You have to replace it.
I want to bring up this comment. Kay Smith, I know who you are. I don't know if it's okay if I say where I met you or not. You let me know. But she says therapeutic ketosis was standard of care for triple negative breast cancer, stage 4, metastasized to her bones. Currently, tumor markers at or below normal, and last PET scan, no evidence of disease. Is that not incredible?
That's great. Awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. So wanted to show that. Carnivore Hercules has a question. I get a runny nose when eating. What causes that?
I wrote a response to him, so I guess I'll say it here. Histamines will give you a runny nose. And if your meat is aged, it can cause histamine response. He said he eats a lot of cheese. Well, I love cheese, and I love really hard aged cheeses. And it's a fascinating experiment with me. I eat a piece of Parmesan, automatic runny nose. So I have a histamine response to aged cheeses. So that could be what's causing it.
Dairy can also cause any form of dairy can also cause esophageal and
mucosal. Yeah, you're right.
Yes. So because it's your body trying to get rid of, because basically it's fermented sort of milk sort of stuff.
The other thing the other thing is spices. Like for me, like when I put garlic, I stopped putting garlic on my steak. I just now do butter and salt, or butter and salt.
Mhm.
The garlic was causing me to have like a itchy nose.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The Allison
Yeah,
and
herbs and
garlic.
spices can do the same thing as well. So
Yeah.
it depends on what you're putting on your meat.
We often don't realize, you know, when we're getting clean, that we're not as clean as we think we are, because, you know, oh,
Yeah.
oregano, or, you know, I used a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and that's all it takes when you've gotten your body so clean. Just the smallest little thing that's not carnivore, we're going to have a reaction or a response to it, because we're so super sensitive now because our body's so clean.
Yeah.
I noticed this happen, unfortunately, doing bone broth. Just homemade bone broth. I made it from steak, like steak bones, and I would cut, you know, like leave some of the meat on there and like kind of make it a fat steak bone, you know, and I freeze them. And then I used to cook it really long in my slow cooker. And then I thought, okay, maybe I'll do just like 24 hours max. And then I refrigerated it, so it was like Jello, you know, and I was like,
Right.
this is so cool. It's
Yeah.
nice in the summer, different texture, great. But my nose would start running every time after I ate it. And so, dang it. So that's why I didn't use that as a coffee substitute, because I thought, well, apparently at the moment I can't tolerate that. So
That's
hot water and
histamines
salt
right
it
there.
is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Neah, you know what somebody else told me? They take an egg and they drop that in with a little butter and some hot water and they froth it up. They said that's really good.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Like a whole egg?
And the egg doesn't cook in the hot water. It's not hot enough to cook it.
So just the egg yolk, though, right?
No, the whole egg. They
A
just
whole
dump
egg?
the egg in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It makes
I used
sense.
to put egg yolks in my coffee
thick.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
You
Make it
could.
thick.
You could,
But,
but when you froth it up, it gets real frothy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've got a super chat from Sherry Morgan. Thank you so much. Some say it's an addiction to carbs. This fixes the desire to binge, just like smoking. It's the rituals, not just the sugar. Yep.
It is. It's stronger,
true.
actually, I think. Yeah. Or
Yeah, it's the
equally
habit.
strong. Habit.
Yeah. Habits.
Yep.
You know,
Sure.
that's one good thing. That's another good way to break these cravings, because a lot of these cravings, like we were just saying, are also habits. So trying to develop good habits, healthy habits, to replace the bad habits is a good way to beat cravings as well. With the runny nose sort of stuff too, another good way to get rid of esophageal mucus and sinus mucus is to increase your salt intake. Other foods that are good for that, because it's fermented in salt, sauerkraut is also very good for getting rid of that sort of thing, and also good for your gut biome and many other processes. Good for IBS, and because the cabbage is fermented, you can actually digest it. But again, it's really the salt content that it makes it so healthy. So don't be afraid to put salt on your meat. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's a good point.
When I stopped alcohol, I found sparkling water big help. Yeah.
Proud to be weird says, I saved my life from 22 years of severe anorexia, which is a deadly mental illness. By nourishing myself with meat, my brain healed. Yep, I love these stories too, because it really is. It's a you know, a dysmorphia in the way you look at yourself, like you're looking at yourself.
And again, like, you know, it comes down to malnourishment of the brain. You know, the chemical imbalances and hormones. Your brain is malnourished, and this is what it's all about. You know, and this is why when they tell you that they want you to get your cholesterol levels down, what they're telling you is that they want you brain damaged. You know, they want you sick.
Right. I mean, I need to find the link to this study, because this is the one I always come back to when I hear the cholesterol argument now. The one where I think Dr. Berry made a video on this. I'm sure probably other doctors have too, but where, you know, over 50% of people that show up at the hospital with a heart attack have normal and or low cholesterol. Like how
Right.
are we still saying that cholesterol is the biggest thing that we need to worry about, or that if your cholesterol's high, it's like get you on a statin, get it down as low as possible? Like, why are we still saying that when we know
We're seeing
for a fact
so
with
much of it
evidence
everywhere. It's all over
that
Google.
it's BS?
Yeah. You can't
Yeah.
not see
But there's
that
a
anywhere,
reason.
everywhere on the internet. And I just got in an argument on YouTube in the comments section. Like we did like 15 back and forths on LDL cholesterol, and they keep quoting the things that they're learning, and they're showing me where they're getting it from. And it's so difficult for me to explain why we need a good, healthy, moderate to high level of LDL. All the things, and I was explaining all the things that cholesterol does for us in the absence of glucose in our body.
Just the lie of
and how healthy
LDL
it
is
is.
one thing to get people's head around too. They don't realize that it's just cholesterol. It's just,
It's just
a
a vehicle.
Yeah. Each lipid is like a taxi for nutrients and hormones,
Right.
and some are full, some are not so full, and they're all good though. There's no such thing as bad cholesterol. It's just cholesterol, and of course, it's not even cholesterol. It's just lipids, really. So, getting people. I mean, the education for most part, it's the education, but the people behind the education is just pure evil. And this has been known for a very, very long time. Like, I love one of my favorite books is The Fat of the Land by Vilhjalmur Stephenson. He actually quotes studies that corporations like DuPont did because they wanted their executives to live longer and be healthier. And so they put them on an all-meat, high-fat diet. This is back in the 30s and 40s. This is not new stuff. They've known about this for a very long time. But they keep pushing on the general public. You have to keep your cholesterol levels down. You have to, find to eat all this other processed garbage. That actually, all these vegetable oils and all these other things that are just, basically kill people. But
Exactly.
keep your cholesterol levels down. That's incredibly crazy. It's just insane, and it's evil. It really is.
It is. I like what I hear when I hear people say, and I hear this from the different doctors, and I like to use this when I have a discussion with people. Why would my body be making this cholesterol if it wasn't good for it? Why would my body knows how much insulin to make when I'm eating food and how to bring it down? My body knows how to make glucose. My liver makes a certain amount because my red blood cells need it. My body's making cholesterol. The small amount that we get from food, it has nothing to do with the meat. I mean, we're not getting much from the food.
Your cholesterol levels are exactly as high as it needs to be at that given moment in the day. One of the reasons they get you to fast, like a GP will get you to fast before you get a blood test, for example, because when you fast, your cholesterol levels are higher because your liver produces more lipids when you're fasted. So then they can give you a statin or something,
Yeah.
Well, have you ever heard of the fireman? Have you heard of the fireman analogy with cholesterol?
Yeah.
So,
people are blaming the fireman. Right.
Yeah, they're blaming the fireman. Well, the cholesterol. Well, what caused the inflammation was the sugar and the seed oils that caused inflammation, and that's what caused the blood vessel to become inflamed. And what comes along to help and save the day? The fireman. Well, who's the fireman? Cholesterol. It's like spackle. It spackles over. But the problem is, if you keep eating the sugar, you keep having the seed oils, you keep the inflammation. More and more spackle, right? More and more firemen. If you stop the inflammation, you go to the root cause and you stop the inflammation by stopping the sugar and the seed oils, then the cholesterol is not going to have to rush to the scene.
Yep.
That's exactly right. And it's part of me wants to say the information's out there. You need to go and look at the information and make an informed decision as an individual for your own, yourself. And I think that's, we started out talking about brain health and mental health, and we've talked about a lot of topics, but it's like, I think people that are either desperate enough or fed up enough with the care that they've received or the treatment that they've been through and it's not working, eventually get to this place where it's like, I'm going to go look for myself. And then the door opens and you discover, oh, pretty much everything I've been taught is a lie. Pretty much everything I've been taught is based on little to no credible, actual foundational evidence. Pretty much everything I've been taught about fiber, plant nutrient, phytonutrients, all these kinds of, eat the rainbow, eat less, move more, just restrict your calories, low fat. It's all based on essentially nothing. And then the curtain falls and then you realize, okay, where do I go from here? And then hopefully we're here for you when you jump on a live stream and you want to learn how to do this. So, I know we're a little past the hour, so I want to give everybody the chance to flee if you have to get out of here. I can hang out for like maybe 10 or 15 more minutes, but I don't want to.
All right. See you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Papa Carnivore.
Yeah,
Nice
man.
to have you.
Yeah, I think I'm going to head out too. You guys,
Okay.
It's been great. I want to thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And I'll see you in 2 weeks, I think.
Yes.
John.
Yep. We'll do
Okay.
another topic in 2 weeks.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
I'll just leave with one message though. The thing is, you're all grown adults. You eat what you choose to eat. But the thing is, the difference is that having informed consent, and the fact is most people, the population at the moment doesn't have that informed consent. They don't know that these processed foods are the cause of how they feel, the cause of these diseases and conditions and things like that. So try and get as much information as you can, and don't be afraid to play around with it. Experiment for yourself, because even if you do go carnivore and do go as clean as you can, you still have to experiment to some point as to how it's going to work for you as well. So some people go low fat, high fat, and depends on your goals as well. So it really does. It's like your very own personal experiment. So don't be afraid to get on with it, though.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's a great way to wrap up. So thanks everybody for being here tonight live. And of course, if you're watching the replay, thank you as well. I appreciate all of you being supportive and helpful and sharing your stories and questions and being very supportive. And so we'll do this again in 2 weeks with another topic. I'll throw up a poll, hopefully a little earlier this time, if I can manage my schedule a bit better. I've got a lot of stuff going on in the background. So thank you to all my guests for being here tonight. I appreciate all of your time, and we'll see you all soon for another one. Take care.
See you, everyone. Thank you. All right.